Okay, thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Peter Tabuns. I'm the Ontario NDP Shadow Minister for the Environment, Conservation and Parks. I'm joined today by my colleagues, MPP Jessica Bell and MPP Kristen Wong-Tam, as well as Dr. Jennifer Penny with Seniors for Climate Action Now. Today, we'll reintroduce legislation to ensure that Ontario is prepared for climate-driven extreme weather events and disasters. Doug Ford and his Conservative government have failed to meet the moment on climate change. A hotter, more dangerous world means more climate-driven flooding, wildfires, and windstorms that will threaten Ontario homes, infrastructure, and, ultimately, lives. Un monde plus chaud et plus dangereux signifie davantage d'inondations, d'incendies et de tempêtes de vent liées au changement climatique qui menaceront les habitations, les infrastructures et, en fin de compte, des vies en Ontario. The Ford government's own Climate Impact and Adaptation Force report detailed the risks for Ontario as the climate crisis worsens. Currently, the climate crisis causes billions of dollars in damage and takes numerous lives annually. As the impacts worsen, the Ford government still has yet to come forward with a robust plan to prepare for climate-related disasters. Our bill gives the government the powers, the funding bodies, and the plans it needs to keep Ontario safe. It's drawn from reports that they themselves commissioned and have chosen to ignore. Acting today will save lives and prevent costly damage in the future. When a storm is coming, you don't ignore it, you prepare for it. Ford continuing to ignore the climate crisis will only put lives at risk. The time to act is now, not when floodwaters are smashing through the front door. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to make their remarks, and we'll start with MPP Bell.
Thank you, MPP Peter Tabuns. I'm really pleased to be standing here in support of MPP Peter Tabuns' bill. I'm Jessica Bell. I'm the MPP for University Rosedale. It's safe to say that the climate crisis is already impacting Ontario, and it is on track to get worse. We are seeing extreme wildfires burn out of control, sometimes for months, which was the experience last summer. We are seeing more extreme heat days, putting renters in a state of misery, and for some, it's threatening their lives. We're also seeing extreme heat days affect workers, especially outdoor workers, construction workers, farmers. It's very concerning. We are seeing an increased likelihood of flooding and heavy rain, which impacts our sewers and roads and infrastructure, causing billions of dollars in damage. It's happened in Calgary, it's happened in Houston, it's happened here, and it could certainly get worse. Quite frankly, the Conservative government's approach to addressing climate change is to stick their head in the sand and pretend that it doesn't exist. The Auditor General has told us very clearly the government has no plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the Fall Economic Statement has enshrined that lack of a plan into law. They are no longer required to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and they have no serious plan to prepare us for what is to come. I have been most concerned with the government's decision to suppress its own reports outlining how Ontario should respond to the climate crisis. We know what we need to do. It's pretty clear. We must drastically cut our pollution, driving climate change, and we must prepare our province to adapt to extreme weather. Let's start with this bill, introduced by MPP Peter Tabuns, and draw on the reports about how we respond to climate change that the government's agencies and the government itself have already written. And let's establish a fund that has the authority to invest in these changes, from improving infrastructure to preparing to emergencies to upgrading our healthcare system. Acting today will save lives and prevent costly damage in the future. It is the right thing to do. It is the moral thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. MPP Wong-Tam.
Thank you very much. My name is Kristen Wong-Tam. I'm the MPP for Toronto Centre. The people of Ontario deserve honest and urgent action when it comes to climate change. This is no longer an issue about what happens in the future. It's an issue about what happens today. It's shaping our lives right now. And during the summer, what we've seen in Ontario are families who are evacuating their homes and their towns and some of their villages because of the smoke and wildfires. Seniors that are struggling to get past the record-breaking heat. Small businesses that were sweeping out floodwater and tossing damaged inventory. And our unhoused neighbors simply have nowhere to go when the sky becomes dangerous. We cannot ignore this, and we cannot pretend that Ontario is prepared. The Auditor General has been absolutely clear. This government is not meeting its own climate targets. It is not doing the work that's required to protect Ontarians from extreme weather conditions. She's found that Ontario is unlikely now to reach its 2030 emissions goals, and that even this admission understates the real gap. She found no long-term climate targets, no reporting, no adaptation plan, nothing that really matches the threat that is before us. In plain language, simply put, the province's watchdog is warning us and telling us that we are not ready. And the costs of inaction is going to be paid by literally everyone in this province. You either pay now or you pay much, much more with devastating consequences later. Workers will lose shifts and employment hours. Families, their homes will be damaged. Crops raised by our farmers will fail. And communities will have to be rebuilt time and time again. And for the people of Toronto Centre, my own home community, over 85% of us live in high-rise conditions, tall buildings. Some of them are aging, some of them are historic, but definitely we are closely bound by ravine communities. And the consequences of government inaction is going to land that much harder and that much faster because we won't have many places to go. But it doesn't have to be this way, and it really shouldn't be this way. Ontario has the talent, the tools, and the spirit to lead from the people and citizen side. We can build infrastructure that withstands storms. We can protect our most vulnerable neighbors with real emergency planning. We can safeguard our economy by preparing our power grid, roads, our hospitals, and small businesses for the climate realities that we face. We can create jobs, leverage those opportunities, and build a climate-positive economy. The only thing standing in the way is Doug Ford and his government. I have a 6-year-old son. I think a lot about what is the planet's condition when he inherits it. I worry significantly about what's going to happen to him and his peers, which is why I'm committed to supporting Peter Tabuns, my colleague Jessica Bell, and all the environmentalists and the scientists who are calling for urgent climate action. We can't wait any longer. We are going to call on this government over and over again to demonstrate real leadership, to adopt this NDP bill, and prepare the province for extreme weather conditions. Let's work together to keep Ontarians safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Penny.
Thank you, Peter. Shortly after this government was elected in 2018, the government appointed a knowledgeable advisory panel to make recommendations to protect Ontarians from the impacts of climate change. The panel reported back 4 years ago in 2021. The panel led off its report by saying, "We found large gaps in our preparedness for extreme climate hazards. The risks are clear and the time for protective action is now." Then the government commissioned a large-scale provincial climate change impact assessment, which reported in 2023, 8 months after it was actually given to the province. But it said the time to act is now, a refrain that we keep hearing. There is an urgent need to act, to prepare, and to invest in climate adaptation across Ontario. And this is what we want to do with this bill, to call the government to action. Climate disasters, as my colleagues have said, and extreme weather events have become the new normal in Ontario. This year alone, we had a dangerous and widespread ice storm in March, record-breaking heat waves, relentless droughts in central and eastern Ontario, and 643 wildfires, which burned 6,000 square kilometres of forest, 7 times more than the previous year, leading to the evacuation of thousands of people from northern communities and the spread of deadly wildfire smoke throughout the province. 2004, the year before, was a year of 100-year storms, which caused $1 billion in insured damages from flash flooding. It was also the year we experienced 18 tornadoes across the south and west of Ontario, which earned us the crown Tornado Capital of Canada. The financial costs are shocking. Insured losses, this is insured losses, from climate disasters in Canada amounted to $9.2 billion in 2024. And for every dollar of losses covered by insurers, $3 to $4 more are borne by residents, local businesses, and municipalities. And the disruption to the people affected can be life-altering. It doesn't have to be like this. Ontario's Financial Accountability Office conducted studies which found that adaptation action to safeguard buildings, transportation, and stormwater systems would result in major savings for the provincial government and especially for Ontario municipalities. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and the Insurance Bureau of Canada, among others, have called on the government to implement climate resilience programs for the province. We use reports commissioned by the government, as well as other resources, to prepare the legislation that Peter is tabling today. The Act contains 4 main features. The first is a strategic action plan that lays out a program to protect Ontarians from flooding, extreme heat, storms, and wildfires, and improves the resilience of Ontario agriculture, infrastructure, and our natural ecosystems. There are actually 55 separate pieces of the program that are laid out in this strategic action plan. It also calls for a dedicated adaptation fund to pay for the action needed. It also calls for an adaptation resource center. All the provinces in Canada actually have access to a resource center, some of them larger and more sophisticated than others. Ouranos in Quebec is an amazing resource center. And in fact, one was in development in Ontario when this government first took power in 2018. It was cancelled. But such a resource center could provide a one-window access to information and advice on adaptation for government ministries, for municipalities, for sectoral organizations, and for the public. And the final thing that we've called for was a whole of government adaptation secretariat to coordinate not only among Ontario's ministries, but also with municipalities, with the federal government, with sectoral organizations, and others. So it's past time for the Ontario to act, and this act prepares the action plan that this province needs. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, colleagues. Are there any questions? Do we have any from outside the room?
No questions.
Okay. Well, then thank you, everyone, for being here today, and thank you to my colleagues for bringing this forward. Have a good day.